Major portions of the Cyberpunk 2077 community are now convinced that something is coming, with some even going as far to say that a major DLC could be on the horizon, whether this be renewed multiplayer plans or just a typical expansion, and some are even arguing that CDPR is already teasing this new DLC or update. And in this video, I want to compile all of the evidence towards this thus far, so you can come to some of your own conclusions, because even CDPR is saying something is coming.
And maybe we still have a surprise or two left for you.
Maybe.
You will see soon enough.
But look, you download one too many romance mods and you might end up with some searches you want to keep private. And now you can with today's video sponsor, OperaGX. This browser is simply built for gamers. It has a built-in VPN to help mask those searches, but also mods. Download some mods to overhaul the look and feel of your browser. You can even mix and match these to truly personalize things, including a Cyberpunk 2077 mod, which already has over 1.5 million downloads. Now your browser is going to truly feel like home. You'll notice a Cyberpunk theme and colors, and even some live wallpapers that match the time of day. And your ears will love you. You can turn on some background music, activate the typing sounds, and even custom sounds while messing with tabs. But this mod also includes one pretty special feature, the official Cyberpunk 2077 hub. With just one click, you can get updates on all of the recent Cyberpunk 2077 news. There have been a surprising number of updates recently, but also more practical features like a quick reference map of Night City, a build planner, and even the game's booklet. If even just some of that sounds nice to you, it is incredibly easy to try out right now. OperaGX has a quick import tool so you can easily move over everything, browsing history, cookies, and even bookmarks from Google Chrome with just a couple of clicks. Every Chrome extension is even compatible here. So upgrade to the browser made for gamers today just by clicking my link in the description or the pinned comment below. Thanks again to OperaGX for sponsoring this video. Right at the end of 2023, just a couple of months after the release of Phantom Liberty, we heard how Cyberpunk 2077 would get one more patch with 2.1. This being explicitly confirmed by IGN a bit later on, and this largely held true. In 2024, we did get a few updates, but it always made sense. One was from a third party adding in more immersive sounds to Cyberpunk 2077, and a bit later into the year, we saw the addition of FSR 3.0 from AMD. But the real shocker came on December 10th, the anniversary of the game, as CDPR revealed that Cyberpunk 2077 would be getting yet another major update with patch 2.2. And perhaps even more notable, CDPR wasn't making this update. Instead, they had contracted Virtuous Games, and that name might sound familiar because those are the people making the Oblivion remastered version as well, but it was confirmed actually in a comment on my own video by Pal Sasko that CDPR directed and oversaw patch 2.2 work while Virtuous did most of the actual work themselves. So put another way, CDPR publicly stated they were done with Cyberpunk 2077 updates and then hired a third-party company to make another update that nobody was expecting. Even at the time, in December of 2024, this seemed odd. So many were speculating that Virtuous Games might end up doing more for CDPR, and that was even before some of this other evidence dropped. And this could have a simple answer. Just last week, we of course saw that Cyberpunk 2077's Ultimate Edition is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. This seems like the obvious way Virtuous could fit in. They've worked on other ports, so CDPR must have just hired them to port the game to Switch, except they aren't working on that. GVG went hands-on with the Switch 2 and even spoke to Cyberpunk 2077 devs to report that the Switch 2 build is only 7 weeks old, and they do explicitly mention that this is fully being built in-house. The Switch 2 port is developed by CD Projekt Red themselves. So yeah, that kind of rules out Virtuous. That 7-week timing wouldn't make much sense either, and of course they're not in-house. And even just around this time, it felt like something more was being teased. The red stream to showcase patch 2.2 ended with this message.
And maybe we still have a surprise or two left for you.
Maybe.
You will see soon enough.
That was before the reveal of Cyberpunk coming to the Switch 2, so it could be viewed as that, but technically at that point, the Switch 2 build wasn't even started yet. It was still several months away, which makes me think this surprise could be referring to something else, and of course the Mac version was known already, so that wouldn't be the surprise either. And even Pal Sasko tweeted out saying, "My dears, for my own education, could you please let me know what is missing for you the most in Character Creator Expanded in Update 2.2? Many wondering if Pal, the person to literally oversee the update, was collecting feedback for another potential update that expands cyberware even further. Now, he does explicitly say it's for his own education, but yeah, fans have locked onto this one because what would he need this info for if it isn't another new update? But honestly, most of that didn't convince me. And instead, the reason I personally think we could see something new is due to who is running the company right now. One of the big background things making me wonder if we see more is the CDPR CEOs. The old CEO stepped down at the end of 2023, aka right around when that final update talk was happening. To kick off 2024, 2 new people were running the company, and notably, these are the people who helped design this overarching Red 2.0 strategy, where CDPR effectively wants to get more out of their games and franchises using things like the franchise flywheel. In this sense, it is our strategy, which we identify with. We are very excited that we can now, in a new role, lead its implementation. And one of the big drivers of speculation right now is how they plan to make their money. CDPR has incentive programs for their management board. So the board says, hey, we'll make the company this much profit in this 4-year time frame, and if we do successfully do that, you have to pay us a bit extra. We just saw some interesting updates around this. Right now, CDPR is behind at the 2023 to 2026 incentive. Time is running out here. Over 50% of the time has passed. They only have to the end of next year. But somehow in that time, they have to make 52% of the money, 52% of the profit. This was brought up during the recent earnings call, and it's why they mentioned the Witcher 4 release date.
Even though we do not plan to release The Witcher 4 by the end of 2026, we are still driven by this financial goal, and although it's very ambitious, we stand a chance of achieving it within the given time frame.
So here, CDPR is saying that even though we won't have any major game releases, The Witcher 4 won't be dropping in that time frame, and even all of these other announced games are still in pre-production. It doesn't seem like any are really that close to release, but even in spite of that, there is a chance they will hit this rather lofty profit target, which put another way means by the end of 2026, they would have to make more money than they did in the year that they dropped Phantom Liberty. To hit this target would be immense. A ton of profit for CDPR from something. The Switch 2 port will likely help with that somewhat, but Phantom Liberty was a highly anticipated expansion with 3 years of dev time. What on earth could get them even close to these profit levels? And just to pause and take an aside here, you can likely see how the community has started to get so hyped and curious around all of this. Since the surprise release of patch 2.2, particularly with its surprising developer, there's just kind of been a gradual buildup of, wait, are you doing something with this game still? The money claim is really just the latest, or not even the most recent curiosity, but one of the more recent things. And it even has the investors curious, as on the earnings call, they do explicitly ask how CDPR expects to make this much money in this short of a time frame.
And what I can say today is that our business success is based on longevity of our products, active franchise flywheel management, and releases of new content. And we expect to be active in all of the mentioned areas within this remaining time frame.
And I think that quote reveals a lot in this unusually long gap between games, because based off their roadmap, once The Witcher 4 drops, a lot of the other games are going to very quickly follow it up. So CDPR just kind of needs to bridge this gap in between now and the release of The Witcher 4. And they'll continue to make money by supporting their products for a long time, this franchise flywheel of using franchises in other avenues, and most interesting for us, releases of new content, which they do just sort of confirm here. They say they expect to be active in all of these areas, including releases of new content, and how some of this may be surprising. Although full disclosure, this quote predates the Switch 2 reveal, so that could once again be the surprising part. Cyberpunk 2077 coming to the Switch 2. And in a later chat with investors, they do confirm that this is going to be true for both The Witcher and Cyberpunk. One of our strategic goals is long-term support for the development of both our brands, The Witcher and Cyberpunk 2077. We will also pursue this goal in 2025, although I cannot reveal the details at this point, which certainly makes it sound like there are plans for something around each of these titles or franchises, but obviously they're not actually telling us what that is. And on the Cyberpunk side, we do know several new things that are coming, some pretty likely to release in 2025. The upcoming Cyberpunk project we've known about the longest is the live action project from Anonymous Content. But with it being live action, this one just seems to be taking a bit longer. Since its reveal in late 2023, we haven't seen any further updates, and obviously with it being live action, we would likely hear about the casting or filming as some of that starts to occur. As of right now, we technically don't even know if this is a movie or a series. So I think the reality is the live action project just hasn't made a ton of progress yet. A new Netflix anime of some kind is coming. There is no timeline or even details on this one. All we actually know is it's an anime series from Netflix, and late last year, CDPR did see some teases of it. So work on this one is definitely progressing, and it dropping in 2025 feels totally plausible. There's not really any indication one way or another if it'll drop in 2025, but yeah, it seems possible. And I would say when it comes to this new anime series, some tie-in update will almost certainly come here. Edgerunners was not only big for Cyberpunk 2077, you could trace a lot of this current comeback to the release of that series. Like, even just looking at the player charts, the bump from Edgerunners just kind of never ended. The game permanently has had more players since the anime dropped. But also, the rest of the gaming industry saw this. Edgerunners really helped launch this ongoing video game series tie-in meta that we're just seeing across the board right now. So with all of that in mind, I just have to imagine some kind of update is going to tie into this new series. They did it with Edgerunners, and while that patch was relatively minor, I totally expect it to happen again and maybe even be a bit bigger this time. But still, that would only be a free update, not making CDPR a bunch of new money, and even the release of the anime series themselves won't necessarily make CDPR a ton of money. They're likely just getting a paid licensing fee. To make a lot of money off those series release, you'd have to have some kind of new release in the game for players to buy. We also just learned that CDPR is working with popular mobile game dev Scopely on something. As of right now, there of course isn't a Cyberpunk 2077 mobile game, and with that being one of their most popular franchises, you have to imagine that is a core priority for them. As of right now, it's not really clear what the Scopely project is. I think it's Cyberpunk, but we don't know, and when it's coming out is completely unclear. It was only just announced, but who knows how long they've been working on it, and it's a mobile game. It doesn't necessarily have to have a crazy long dev time. But here you can see that CDPR is fully engaging with the franchise flywheel with Cyberpunk 2077 right now. Multiple pieces of new media are in production, and it seems very likely a mobile game is also on the way. Okay, so what about the longevity of their products? How is CDPR going to be active there like they said they will? One of the really fascinating things we just learned about from this recent earnings call is Cyberpunk 2077 overall has been a giant seller for CDPR, making me wonder if the longevity of their products could mean more updates for Cyberpunk. 2024 ended up being CDPR's third best year ever, and this was almost entirely driven by continued sales of Cyberpunk 2077. They made a ton of money off this game, even despite not really releasing anything for it in 2024. Typically, we get a bit of a heads up if a new update is coming to Cyberpunk 2077 just from SteamDB. This allows us to track some of the changes going on with games on Steam, and you can see when something's moving, some of the files are being moved or uploaded, which obviously indicates that, oh yeah, Cyberpunk's getting another update. What's making things around this difficult this time around is we do know that something is coming. Cyberpunk 2077 is getting a Mac version in 2025, so on SteamDB there is a Mac build being edited, and even further, Virtuous could just be working on this Mac port, so this does kind of obscure things. We can't tell if it's just a Mac update or a Mac update and something else, but even when it comes to just the release for Mac, CDPR does feel like the type of company to include a bit extra on that one. I wouldn't expect a 2.2 scale update, but I wouldn't be surprised if a few new things are added. But we also have mod tools. Just a couple of years after Cyberpunk 2077 released, CDPR hired a bunch of modders, this largely being those who had made the unofficial tools for The Witcher 3. Initially, we got some stuff that helped make the unofficial tools for Cyberpunk 2077 easier to make and update, but that even later evolved into proper mod tools for The Witcher 3. But unfortunately, this wasn't perfect. The big issue was the tools, while incredibly powerful and opening up a ton of new modding possibilities, just came too late. The Witcher 3 at that point was a very old game, and as such, there wasn't as much interest overall. But of course, hiring modders, releasing official tools for The Witcher 3 has made a lot of people wonder if official mod tools would also come to Cyberpunk 2077. This would make things like new locations, new quests, and even fully custom NPCs far easier for this game. And just a few months after filling their new roles, the two new CEOs did have something interesting to say about mod tools.
When it comes to any future things, Cyberpunk, anything related, I mean, once we have something on our hands, we will definitely talk about that. But in general, I would indicate that community-created content by means of mods, enabled, empowered by really well-prepared tools, is something we are fond of, and we do see value in that. in how we interact with the fans.
So here, they aren't saying mod tools are definitely coming or anything like that, and even at this point, that quote is about a year old, but CDPR is making it clear that they see value in mod tools, which when that quote's coming from the very top of the company with everything else going on that I've shown you thus far in this video, it definitely makes me think we could see better mod tools sometime soon, perhaps later in 2025. Timing a mod tools release around a new anime series just feels like a massive recipe for success. A bunch of people watch a new Cyberpunk anime, get hyped again, and then could rejoin the game, downloading a bunch of mods in the process. But okay, all of that shows great potential for new updates for Cyberpunk 2077, but none of that would really make CDPR any more money, and none of that is a paid DLC. Where are those rumors coming from? What many are now viewing as the really big clue that something DLC or expansion related is coming is this Cyberpunk 2077 birthday and anniversary calendar posted by CDPR just recently. This includes birthdays for most of the major characters you interact with in Night City, the notable exceptions being Takamura and the Arasaka family, as well as the major fixers in the game, but on the bottom row, 6 are missing and labeled as encrypted data. And even in the tweet comes another tease, oh, and don't worry about those encrypted data warning, just a glitch in the system, or is it? I've seen this getting posted and speculated about on a near daily basis by the community because what is this? The game is done getting updates and new content, but now there are 6 characters hidden here? What is the secret? With all of the other sort of rumblings that something could be coming, remember that quote about a surprise I showed you earlier, now tons are viewing this as an official indication that something actually is coming. And honestly, that kind of is the weird part about all of this. At this stage, we don't know what's happening or not happening on multiple levels. Like just from the onset, is CDPR releasing additional content for Cyberpunk 2077? We don't really know the answer for that, whether it be a free update or a paid update. But then even further, if they actually are releasing something, if you are convinced that something else is coming, is it going to be a free DLC? Is it going to be a full-on expansion that costs a bunch of money and adds hours of new content? Or is it just going to be a relatively minor update that adds in a couple of new car skins or something? CDPR has always played around with secrets and mysteries. Cyberpunk 2077 has had multiple huge ARGs, and it even looks like they might be launching one for The Witcher 4 right now. And then even further, who are these characters? Lots of people have said it could just be the 6 Edgerunners characters, which, yeah, maybe, but the calendar overall is labeled as the Cyberpunk 2077 calendar, which could exclude them, seemingly. Edgerunners and 2077 are in the same universe, but otherwise totally separate. But at the same time, the version of this that does make the most sense to me is these being a tease of 6 new characters from the new Netflix anime. We know they've already seen teases of it, so they likely know some plot details around the characters, and perhaps they end up doing a larger tie-in update, or hey, maybe even a DLC that could kind of be cool, getting some experiences with those characters after actually watching them in the anime. Otherwise, I have a really hard time reconciling where 6 characters could fit in, and why are they secret in the first place? Like, that's kind of the other question here. Why is it hidden? We know all of the characters and many of their birthdays from Cyberpunk 2077, but one thing that is definitely worth highlighting here is Cyberpunk 2077 has a ton of cancelled or cut content. If these new CEOs are serious about bringing more updates to Cyberpunk, I have to imagine that would be one of the first places they look. And while I do think this is a major stretch, one area they did have big plans around that could definitely help them hit these profit goals is multiplayer. Cyberpunk 2077 was originally supposed to get a full-scale multiplayer mode, initially described as a separate AAA project that ended up getting cancelled, but it always seemed like that was more a result of the launch disaster and controversy as opposed to a lack of desire to add multiplayer, which may be further reinforced by the idea that Cyberpunk Orion, the sequel, just had a job listing go up mentioning build and maintain solid and flexible gameplay systems that work in both single and multiplayer. It seems like Orion and potentially even The Witcher 4 will be getting multiplayer, and it was heavily featured in their updated strategy designed by these new CEOs. So while, yeah, that's kind of insane to suggest Cyberpunk could get multiplayer now, this is clearly a direction they want to take the overall company in because it seems like they see a ton of value from it. I don't really think they would actually add multiplayer to Cyberpunk 2077 at this point. That seems super unlikely, but at least one modder's doing it. Just out of sheer coincidence, this past weekend I was invited to participate in the latest test of CyberMP, an upcoming multiplayer mod for Cyberpunk 2077. This has been in development for years now. I even participated in a separate test about a year earlier, but things have come a long way for this one. The process of actually playing multiplayer is incredibly seamless now. All you need to do to get this working is just download the launcher and connect to a server and you're basically good to go. And once you're on the server, the sync is really good. You can do quite a bit in real time with this one, and thanks to more recent updates, other players have proper animations now. And this test was even trying out some custom server-focused features. So in a hypothetical future where a bunch of you are running CyberMP servers, the host could edit some things about it to just make it feel a bit more unique. You can see my HUD is partly custom here. This isn't a mod I downloaded, that's something I'm getting from joining the server. They added functionality for AVs, so you could actually call in, spawn, and fly around in your own AV, and potentially even have other people join you during this. Several game modes were implemented on top of all of that, this seemingly quite close to what CDPR wanted to do with their original multiplayer mode as well. So you could set up demolition derbies, where you're just ramming each other with cars, death matches with weapons, or even just death matches with tanks, although in my experience those typically didn't last very long. And of course, just some good old-fashioned races in Night City. CyberMP has come a long way, and even more is coming. It just got this new roadmap which shows that a closed beta and even a semi-open beta are coming very soon. And you can keep up to date with all of this on their Discord, which I'll have linked down below. So while we don't currently know if CDPR is going to add multiplayer, it definitely is coming in one form or another. But beyond that, there are several other areas of cut content that they could revisit for this new content. Originally, Cyberpunk 2077 was supposed to get 2 major expansions, and from past leaks, we can see work on something else did begin. The fabled Moon DLC would seemingly take us to space and several new locations in space. It has been widely speculated that the Crystal Palace that briefly appears in one ending would be more prominently featured here as an epic space casino you could visit, and even on the outskirts of Night City is another giant casino and club that was never actually used for anything. There are 2 gigs that were never fully implemented. One is basically complete with Hothead, while another has a lot less work done but can be seen in the files of the game. It seems like these were originally planned as free DLCs. We got a bunch of other gigs as free DLCs, which really with Cyberpunk, free DLCs are more just like free updates. They just use weird DLC naming. But these 2 gigs just never came out for some reason. Looking back at that birthday calendar, could we see something where the fixers gradually fill in this, and with each new fixer added, a new gig or 2 is added for them? That honestly seems unlikely just due to needing to get back all of those fixer voice actors for all of the various languages. But hey, who knows? Maybe something with these gigs could come to fruition, maybe a larger gig add-on for the game. And to end off the video, let's throw out one crazy crackpot theory that almost certainly isn't happening, but this would be amazing. One of the biggest things from Cyberpunk overall that many expected to get updates on in 2077, but just never went anywhere, was the fate of Morgan Blackhand. Morgan Blackhand was a top merc in Night City, considered the solo, and he even did feature a big black metal arm. Blackhand was on that Arasaka assault with Johnny and even fought Smasher himself, but it's not clear what happened to this famous character after the events of this assault. Many people expected this to be a huge character that would pop up during the story of Cyberpunk 2077. There was a lot of speculation before release, and it even carried on onto Phantom Liberty, while a lot of people are speculating that Kurt Hansen was Morgan Blackhand because of his big metal arm. Nothing ever came of Morgan Blackhand, but just a couple of weeks ago, Mike Pondsmith did reveal he is working on something here.
Morgan Blackhand. Yeah. Where is he? Where is he? I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I am working out a new... Morgan will surface. He is alive, but I have about 10 years that Morgan's doing some fairly important stuff. And the best I can say is imagine if the Batman traveled a lot. You know, and he left Gotham City every so often to deal. And so, yeah, that's kind of, Morgan got out of the war and said, well, I got paid, but this was stupid. So Morgan is out and about, and it's not just Morgan, that's all I'll tell you.
I don't realistically think this is going to somehow tie back into Cyberpunk 2077 as a DLC or expansion or anything, but at the same time, if they were to do something, this would be absolutely epic. A Morgan Blackhand themed DLC or expansion would be one of the coolest Cyberpunk updates we could get. And overall, that's where things stand right now. We have this weird situation where CDPR is definitely teasing something, and we know of several things that are definitely coming, but we don't know how big they are, when they're coming, or even what they actually are in a lot of cases. But really the purpose of this video was to help inform you, get you up to date with what is going on with Cyberpunk 2077, and explain why so many people suspect that something is coming in one way or another.